right, so it looks like we are live. It's going to be just a second until we get started here because I want to share this out to our Facebook page that's for teachers and parents, and then I also want to share it on Twitter. So it'll be just 1 second, and then we'll get started here with our interview. This is riveting.
It is. It is. I hope you guys are excited as I am.
Okay, let's see here.
Hey, there we are.
There we are.
Look at us.
So, let's get
Looks
this
like it's
shared.
lagging a little bit.
Yeah. All right, just 1 second. Okay. So, think, and then the other thing I need to do here is, how can I do this? I need to have it live myself so that I can see, okay, so I can see comments. So, okay.
Got
We
the
are
volume
good.
off, that'll throw me off.
I know.
All right.
Volume is off. So, we'll go ahead and get started here. And as all of you know, I'm Corey, and I do the NextUp videos and everything that you see in the classroom. And if you are watching this and your school doesn't have NextUp, then I would encourage you to check out transitioncurriculum.com to learn more about our transition curriculum. And it's a very innovative and interactive curriculum. And one of the things that I wanted to do this year was at some point do at least one interview with a hiring manager, just to kind of find out what a manager is looking for in our applications and looking for us from us in interviews, and then also on the job stuff. And so this is Patrick, and Patrick is a manager of a grocery store. So and you do hire.
I do some hiring, yep.
Yep, some high school students. And believe it or not, Patrick, this was an easy interview for me to get because Patrick is my brother.
You can tell by our hair color.
Yes, yep. All right, so let's get started here. Patrick, you do hiring in interviews and everything. You hire high school students, but you are not the main hiring manager of the grocery store.
Yep, that is correct.
Right. So Patrick is a manager of a department within a grocery store, which tells you that even if you apply there, okay. Well, let me ask you this, Patrick. If someone has an interview, what's the process? Do they interview with someone else in the store, and then that store says, oh, I think this person would be good for this department, and then that student interviews, or that applicant interviews with you again?
That's part of it. That happens some of the times, and also on the online application, you can apply for certain positions, certain departments, if you're interested in them, and that kind of streamlines it a little bit if you wanted in a certain department.
Right. So if you had an interest in something. Okay, that's interesting. So then, but a student may actually have 2 interviews to get a position.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So would you suggest then? So that's one reason to be really specific on your online application or even on a paper application to describe what position you want, because that gets you funneled into that department. Otherwise, you're going to have to work your way up to that.
Yep.
Which is going to take some hard work.
Yep. Some time and some talking.
Okay, so Patrick, you mentioned online applications.
Yep.
Online students have a very hard time completing online applications. They're very confusing.
Yep.
They are, I'm going to say, strenuous. They take a lot of effort. And teachers and anybody that helps students find jobs, we hate online applications. We think they're the worst things ever. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
You hire students
Yep.
off of online applications. Have you ever completed an online application?
I have.
You have? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
When we first rolled ours out, they kind of wanted us to see, how it worked and everything. And it was horrific.
Okay.
Not a big fan of it either. So.
Right. Yeah. And so, like, what's your opinion of why do they have those? Why can't we get rid of those? No one likes them.
No, and I don't really have a good reason. I know they're kind of set up to like flag for maybe some maybe lying or not telling the truth through the whole process, and that's really I think what a lot of it is to try to so only the truthful people get through. Only
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think at the same time, it also things are worded in such a tricky manner. Not on all online applications, but in a lot, that even if you're telling the truth, it's easy to get confused.
Yeah, I would agree.
And but okay, so while we're on that on online applications, what from your side of things, when someone submits an application, what do you see? Do you see if someone does not do well on an online application? Do you even get that application?
Yes, we do. We get all the applications. And I really don't look. I mean, that's not part of my position, but I have looked at them before, and it's kind of like a grade scale, and it's got different, and I don't even remember all of them, but it's got like different sections, and this is how they graded in this. This is, this is what they're, they got it like a green, a blue, or a red, or whatever it might. I actually don't remember what it was, but
right.
It's like I think there was 4 different sections, and it kind of gave you, and then at the end it gives you an A through D.
Okay.
Like the A would be this is someone that you really want to interview. And
okay.
So
My understanding, and I've talked with a hiring manager, an HR person that works for a company that has online applications, and they told me that really there's only a couple of questions that will red flag you and make you basically ineligible to even interview. And those are questions that aren't necessarily ones that students could get tricked on.
Yep.
Like maybe it's birthday.
Okay.
Or no, it can't ask for your birthday.
No.
Maybe it's a question. Are you over 16? Can they ask that?
I don't think they do.
There's some question relating to age.
They may more than likely, and I'm not sure, but I think more than likely they can ask if you're under 16.
Right. That's what it is. Yeah.
But you can't because they're just looking for because of laws.
Right.
Of what they can and can't do. So.
Right. Yeah. I think there's something to that effect, and so that was one. Like, there's only a couple questions that could really just knock you out, and they're not ones that, they're not ones that you're going to get tricked on. So, okay. So, I don't know if you answered this, but I want to stay on online applications.
Okay.
I'm going to put you, put the heat on you here. What do hiring managers think about those online applications? Are they seen as being like real handy because it does some of your work for you and as far as like ranking people, or do hiring managers kind of see it as a pain too?
From my experience, hiring managers aren't huge on it either.
Okay.
So back in the day, like when I first interviewed and we hired, it would be you would have days of the week where open interviews, people would come in, you'd take them upstairs, you'd have a 10-15 minute interview, and then you'd keep the applications you like, and it was all written applications,
Right.
So personally I think that's what most
Managers like.
Yeah, it was the easiest. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get to know a person that way, and even like, you can see their handwriting, you can see those types of things.
And you get more applicants that way too, because there's a lot of
Right.
people that don't want to put in the, hour and 10 minutes or whatever it might be to fill out an application, or they don't have internet, or
Sure,
there's
yeah.
plenty of different reasons why we don't get as many applicants as we used to.
Sure. One more question about online applications. Do you have any advice for students
It's just
in filling out online applications?
I would just say be truthful. Do your best, because like Corey said, there are only a few things that are going to, flag you. And even with those flags, a lot of times we look into it and figure out what it was.
Okay.
Is it still worth an interview? Is it a no-go, or is it, so that doesn't always mean that you're not going to get an interview. It
Right.
just means that it's harder to get an interview.
Sure. Okay, so what are some things that students could do if they think maybe they didn't do so well on an online application? Would following up on their application, are those things where if a hiring manager has something and they say, look, this person got a C or even a D, but you know what, they're really showing effort, they've maybe come into the store and introduced themselves and they're following up, can that help you overcome maybe not a great score on an online application?
Oh, I would say definitely. I would also say a phone call probably is better than going in to talk to them, just because, and this goes, just grocery stores and actually a lot of different retail.
Mm-hmm.
We're just so busy that, it's kind of a hassle to go,
Right.
So I would say make a phone call and ask, if they got the application, if everything looked all right, and just kind of introduce yourself and say you were excited to interview, and,
Right.
and just put yourself out there, and that'll help out a lot.
What would you say? I talk with students a lot. Actually, maybe 3 weeks ago or so, I did a lesson on your elevator pitch, your elevator speech, which is the idea of kind of, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, these are my experiences, those types of things, selling your strengths. If someone came in and said, oh, hi, my name is Tony, and I don't have a lot of, I interviewed for a position with your store, and I don't have a lot of work experience. This would be my first job, but I've done volunteer work, and I've done this, and I have really good attendance at school. Is someone going into a little bit of detail and showing like some pretty strong people skills, is that going to carry more weight than someone that just says, oh, did you look at my application?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So you have applications. How do you decide who you're going to interview?
We interview almost everybody.
Okay.
At this point, there's very few that don't get interviews. So.
Okay.
But yeah, because really, like I said earlier, we just see a few things about the application. We don't really see the whole application or anything. So most people get interviews. So.
Okay. Yeah, and that's not that's not the case across the board.
Mm-hmm.
But that's encouraging to hear that's the case. So in which case, if you do get an interview, you got a lot of competition.
Yes. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's why then doing well in the interview is important. Okay, so let's talk about interviews.
All right.
If I can read my handwriting here, I have no idea what this says. Oh, dress.
Oh, okay.
So how important is how an applicant dresses?
It's very important to me. That's one of the things I look at right away. Is it just shows that you care and that you want the job. So it's huge.
Okay. So even though he is my brother, I have not told you anything that I talk about in NextUp videos. I've not coached him at all.
No.
So what you're hearing, these are the things that you're hearing me say all the time in videos, and this is proof that it's true. And I did not give him note cards to memorize talking points. So this is the truth here. So how you dress is very important. Why? Because it shows how serious you are about that opportunity.
And the other thing about dress is it 10 or 15 years ago, everyone dressed up for their interviews.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it very often anymore. So it really puts yourself that much farther ahead than everyone else that's interviewing, that's coming in jeans or pajama pants or whatever
Yeah.
it might be. It really does help you out. Just a nice shirt. You don't need to wear a tie. just be clean pressed.
Right,
Wear
so-
a sweater. It doesn't, as long as whatever you would wear to a nice, whatever
Dinner
you'd wear to
or something.
church or dinner, or if you're going out with your grandma or something like that, that's what you want to wear.
Right. So again, pants that are not jeans,
Mm-hmm.
a shirt maybe with a collar, polo shirt, something like that, a sweater. and a nice dress or skirt for females. And notice what he said: clean and pressed. Remember, so clean. Make sure your hair is clean. Make sure your fingernails are clean. All your hands, all that kind of stuff. And then make sure that your shirt's not wrinkled. I've talked in these videos about ironing, getting your interview clothes ready, having them hung up so that when you have that opportunity, your clothes are right there and clean. So, so we know that dress is important. How about the handshake? And this is something that the phone's ringing. This is something that I think some students struggle with a little bit because it's. Sorry about that.
You need to take this.
No. So I think it's a little bit intimidating for high school students because it's kind of like a grown-up thing to do. It's kind of putting yourself out there a little bit. Now tell me, do you extend your hand for a handshake? Do you wait for them to do it? What is the whole?
Really, I'm not even sure what I do. You can tell when someone is going in for a handshake. And the other big thing is how the handshake feels to me.
Right.
Is a big thing. Make it firm.
Right.
Make it so I can feel. Don't hurt my hand, but 5 seconds afterwards, I can still tell I shook somebody's hands.
Okay.
But I really don't know. I think I probably extend it first, and that's just out of habit because that's what you should do.
Right.
I mean, that's
in a professional environment when you meet someone. That's how you.
Yep. You shake their hand, and so you should try to beat me to the punch, but I'm not sure how I do it. It just comes natural.
Sure.
So.
Right. So notice what he said there: handshake, but a firm handshake.
Mm-hmm.
Do it with a little bit of purpose. If you kind of have a weak handshake,
it just feels weird.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is if you're nervous and your hands are sweaty, it doesn't matter. I mean,
sure.
It's how good the handshake is. It's not how oh man, I'm afraid to shake his hand real strong because I know my palms are sweaty. Well, people don't care. Mine might be. I don't know.
Right. Okay. Now I'm going to go off script here a little bit. I was in a class a couple weeks ago, and we had a really big discussion. There were a couple of students in there that were a little bit nervous, a little concerned about germs and things like that. And they said, they really just didn't even like touching other people. Germs kind of creeped them out. And what we discussed was, you're just going to kind of have to deal with it. This is a time in your life that you just have to shake somebody's hand. And we talked about maybe some things that they could do afterwards to.
Well, I mean, the germ thing, if you open the door to go into the interview, you've got them, germs are everywhere. So
right.
There's more germs on a door handle than there is my hand. I wash my hands, or, especially in the grocery industry, we wash our hands constantly. So
right.
I wouldn't worry too much about germs.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, what they were asking was if they had an interview and they told the hiring manager that they were, sorry, I'm not comfortable shaking your hand because for whatever reason, what do you think about that?
It would be weird.
Okay.
For me, it would be weird.
Okay. All right.
Because, as you grow older, you something you're just going to have to get used to because
right.
You shake hands, it's just the right thing to do. So
right.
And
okay.
I get the germ idea.
Sure.
But they're everywhere. So it's
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in an interview, what are you looking for out of an applicant?
Looking for someone to make eye contact with me. Someone that seems like they want to be there for the interview. And nervous is okay, but try not to be awkward. It's okay to be nervous. I still interview. I still get nervous when I interview for jobs. It's just part of the process. But you need to be, try to be well spoken.
Now, if somebody, you mentioned I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
That's fine.
You mentioned well spoken. So if someone comes in and it's clear to you that they have memorized their answers to your questions, Is that something? Are you going to think, oh, I don't know? Are you going to think that, or are you going to think, well, there's somebody that's prepared?
I suppose it's how you try to do it. You know, I mean, try to make it feel natural if that's the case. So, but like, I like an interview to be more of a conversation than what's, you know, this and this and this and this, and I'm waiting for you to answer me. I want to know. And the other thing I like in an interview is if you don't know the answer to a question, just say you don't know it and ask. Because one of my least favorite things in an employee is a know-it-all. And when you have an applicant that's sitting there telling you, I don't know this answer, or explain that to me. What do you mean by this? Or, you know, I don't get how you're saying that. What are you asking me again?
Can you reword it?
Yeah. I like that, because to me that's saying that they're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to learn. They're not afraid, because ultimately that's what I want in an employee, is someone that I can teach, that can learn, that wants to learn, that, you know, isn't afraid to make mistakes, because mistakes are part of, you know, any work environment. You're going to make mistakes, and that's fine. Just don't make it twice.
He's joking, kind of.
But what I like more of a conversation.
Right. Okay. Well, this is awesome, because you're hitting on a lot of things that I talk about in videos, even things that I've talked about recently. Remember, just a couple weeks ago, I talked about if they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, you know, can you reword that? And then maybe you understand, or just to say, you know what, I'm not really sure. That is not going to ruin the interview for you. So you're actually hitting on, and actually he's hitting on a few things that you're going to see, I think, in this week's lesson and next week's lesson too. So I know you could be my assistant. Okay, so are you looking for great answers, or are you looking for good people skills?
I'd say people skills more than answers. Like I said just a minute ago, I mean, it doesn't, to me, an interview is just meeting each other and me trying to figure out, okay, will you work in this position? Is this the right fit for you? Because a lot of times if you don't get a job, it doesn't mean that you weren't a good person or you didn't interview well. It was that maybe I thought, you know, this probably isn't the right job for them. Maybe they should, you know, there'd probably be a better fit in this. And a lot of times I'll go out and tell them that when we call them back, you know, you didn't do anything wrong, but, you know, I just didn't feel like I didn't feel like you would be, you know, real good with customers or something. You seem a little too shy we're looking for people that are, you know, that want to go above and beyond in customer service and this and that. And
okay, so since you're on the topic of that, of, you know, you wanting people that are really good with customers and stuff, if someone just doesn't have a lot of experience in that, is not real, I mean, like when I started my first job, and I think when you did too, we were really shy. You know, we were shy kids, and shy teenagers, and shy young adults. And so, how can someone that maybe is shy and maybe knows that they don't have great people skills, like how could they say in the interview, like, I can get better at this, or I know that, you know, right now, or, you know, address almost what appears to be a weakness at that point, bring that up, like, what's your advice on if someone's shy, if they know that they're going into a grocery store, retail, anything that has a lot of customers, knowing that they're going to get better, they just need that practice, they need that comfort. How can they address that in an interview?
Just by being honest. I mean, that's just the whole, everything about an interview process is be yourself and be honest. And sometimes that hurts you and sometimes it helps you, you know, but it's okay either way, because ultimately, I mean, if you continue to interview, you're gonna get yourself in the right position. But to your question, just be honest and say, you know, I know I'm shy, because I've hired shy kids before. I mean, because sometimes you can see that if you want to improve and you know that's a weakness and you want to get better at it, I can help. You know, I can give you, you know, tricks, or because I'm probably not the most outgoing person, am I, Corey?
No.
So, and I feel like I'm pretty darn good at customer service.
Right.
Because
you practice.
Yeah, because you learn that customer service is really just, you know, a one-on-one with that customer, and what can you do to help that customer to, you know, to make them happy. And that's not, once you understand that and you realize that, yeah, you might have hundreds of customers around you, but it's just one-on-one hellos, and, you know, it gets really easy and really simple and not scary. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, just, you can get better at it, and say you want to, you know, I mean, just say, I know I'm a little shy, but I'm, you know.
So it's almost like addressing that weakness, saying, I know this is a weakness of mine, and I can get better at it. And so then that just takes all of your doubts, maybe, about, you know, are they going to be able to improve their people skills? It takes those doubts away, because he's going to know that that student really does want to get better and knows that they need to. So I think you raise a good point, too. And I record these lessons, NextUp lessons, sometimes weeks before they're seen in the classroom. And so I can't remember if this is on last week's episodes, this week's, or the week after, but you mentioned customer service. And I talked about, in a video, maybe you haven't watched it or not, I'm not sure, but I talk about ways to be successful on the job, and one of those things is customer service skills. And I liked what you said, that it's one-on-one, and it's really just as easy as saying hi.
Yeah. Oh,
Can I help you?
Yep.
Are you finding everything okay? That's good customer service skills. It doesn't have to be handling some big crisis or something like that.
Because mostly, especially when you're in high school, mostly those big crises are going to be handed off to the next level, just like that. And doing that, you know, just telling the customer, hey, let me get a supervisor for you that can help you out with this. But really, I mean, saying good morning or good evening or hello or how are you today, you know, just little things like, I mean, that's really what customer service is. So it's not scary. It's not big, and
it might take practice to get comfortable to say that to people, but that's small talk. You know, if you say, hi, how are you doing? The customer's going to say, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Yep.
It's not, you're not all of a sudden forced with like some big decision that you have to make or something like that. So, okay. So let's move on to on the job topics. So right now we're in our unit on the job stuff. We've covered applications and interviews, and now we're doing on the job stuff. So for someone that is working a job, you're a manager, what is a way, or maybe a couple ways, that a student worker can impress their manager?
You know, so most of my high school kids work, especially during the school year, in the evenings. And I'm not there all the time in the evenings. So one thing I really like is when and I remember doing this as a high school kid, because I always wanted to do as good of a job as I could, especially once I got into a department. When you're, you know, in the you know, registers and stuff like that, you're just doing your job. But once I got into a department where it was really important that it looked good or I did everything right, just ask, hey, how did it look last night? You know, how did it look this morning? You know, and then you can, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, it looked really good, but this, you know, and it's, but asking how they did is a big one.
Right, because so what's going to happen then is you might be inviting a little bit of criticism your way, but it's helping you become a better worker, so that a month down the road, you don't have to pull them aside, Patrick, and say, you know what, you've been doing this wrong for a while, you got to get this fixed. Yep. It makes it easier for you to mention it to them, and it shows a real willingness to do a better job.
Yeah, yep, that you want to learn, and more than likely, I mean, especially with my kids, if they ask me how it looked, I'll tell them 2 or 3 things that look good. I'm always probably going to point out something that I thought they could do better on. And that's just, I mean, it's not that I'm trying to pick on anybody, but there's
always room.
Always way to improve. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. And this was in a recent lesson. Is it okay to be a little bit late?
No. Not really. There's always reasons why you may be, but there's just really no excuse to have it, especially if it's habitual. You know, if you're doing it over and over and over again, and I say late's 3 minutes. I mean, if you're more than 3 minutes late, you're late. Mm-hmm. If you're less than 3 minutes late, you got held up in traffic, or something got in your way and you didn't get there quite in time.
As long as they're not 3 minutes late every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So if someone's late for work, what does that do to you?
Well, most of my people come in at 4 p.m., most of my high school kids, because that's when they get out of school and they get in there. And I need to leave shortly thereafter. So if you're late, you're making me late. I'm staying at work longer than I'm supposed to. So I'm adding hours on, I'm adding labor on, and I'm late to pick up my kids. And, there's lots of, you're kind of throwing everything off.
Right. And so you might think like, oh, big deal, he's got to wait around a few minutes. Well, guess what? This guy gets paid a lot more than his part-time workers. I mean, he's loaded, this guy. No, but he gets paid a lot more. And so him sticking around, let's say 15 minutes, is going to cost the company a lot more than a part-time person sticking around 15 minutes.
Yep. And
so that's going to be a red flag to your higher-ups that your labor is too high.
Yep. We've got goals, and the schedule we write is to hit those goals. And when things go wrong, the other thing that might mean is that tomorrow I've got to leave early. Well, then that just means there's more work for you to do tomorrow because I couldn't get everything that I needed to get done.
Right.
Just so on and so forth.
Right. So reliability is very important to be reliable. Would you say that reliability is the most important thing out of a worker? Or let me ask you, what is the most important thing?
I would say customer service skills. To me, that's what's most important. But reliability is right. If they go hand in hand, though, because if you're not going to be reliable, you're probably not going to be good with customers either. Mm-hmm. It shows that there's some lack of judgment there, and you're making poor decisions. So
okay, so to go along with that, then, how do you define success for a part-time high school worker? What is successful for you? You mentioned good customer service skills, reliability. Is there anything else that, like, when you have to give your reviews or something, if you do a review, like, what are you saying? Like, what is defining the quality of work from that worker?
I suppose in the end, success is just getting better. As long as you're improving and you're trying. I would say effort would be huge. And when I'm doing reviews, I'm looking for someone that's trying their hardest, that wants to learn. That might not mean that you're my best employee, but if I know you want to be my best employee, then that's what it is right there.
Right.
So
yeah. Okay. So, and I've been forgetting to mention this as we're going, but if you're watching live, you can ask a question right now. I've got my computer right over here. I can look at it. And so if you have any questions for Patrick, or if you have any questions for me, I guess, go ahead and ask those in the comments, and it'll show up here. And then we'll be able to answer it live. And also, if you're watching this later, go ahead and ask a question. It'll pop in there. And Patrick, if it's all right with you, maybe I can get you to answer those questions later when those come in.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Okay, my next question is, what aspect of work do you think that students struggle with the most? And maybe it's things that they struggle with and they're not even aware of it. Like, what is the number one issue with high school students, with people that are in entry-level positions?
I would say, especially with high school kids, it's just staying focused and just, keeping on task. It would be a big one. I think there's a lot of customer service issues too that you have to get through, especially when you first hire. Just getting used to just putting yourself out there for customers and ask. You see a customer walk in, you obviously know they're confused and they're looking for something. It's so much easier to walk by them than to stop and say, hey, can I help you find something? Is there something you're looking for? You look lost, so that kind of stuff, you really have to put yourself out there. And I think a lot of times kids struggle with that just because it's easier to walk. and pretend like you didn't see it, you know. But I mean, staying on task, staying focused, you know, pushing yourself to get more done than what I expect you to get done. I mean, stuff like that.
Okay.
I would say kids usually struggle with, but
Okay.
I probably did in high school too. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. One. You're familiar with the idea of, you know, different school work programs will maybe have some students come in and work kind of like a volunteer type position, a training job.
Mhm.
So does this happen? You've been in those situations though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of students that I talk with, a lot of times really, and in fact, I think we had a student question not that long ago, of a student that really enjoyed that and kind of fell in love with the job and wanted to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for someone that's watching this video that is working a training position? You know, you get to leave school to go work somewhere, and maybe you get paid, maybe you don't. It's an experience, right? So what advice do you have for someone in that position that really likes that job and wants to work there?
I just try your hardest, because more than likely, if you're a good employee that you're trying and you're improving, you know, every day, I'm going to keep you. So we don't get a lot of that anymore. We used to quite a bit. We get, you know, kids that would leave. You know, I don't even remember what the programs were called, but you'd leave at 2,
Sure.
come to work, and we would pay. I mean, you would be our employee, so it's a lot easier for me to keep you if you're already my employee. You know,
Right.
if you're trying. So, but I would just say try your hardest. Like I mentioned earlier, ask your manager or whoever, your supervisor, ways to improve, and just show them that you want the job. They're going to keep you.
Right.
I mean, unless there's no position there to keep, you know, sometimes you may have that where you might be, you know, working at
time of year or something.
yeah, you might be working at a place and I think there's programs where like that company doesn't pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we don't do that, but then there may just not be a position there.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as there is a position, they're probably going to call you because you're already trained.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I mean, leave on good terms if that's the case. But really, just try your hardest, and you're going to keep it. So.
And I mean, in my opinion, I think a student should communicate that to the managers there. You know, if the school year is ending and your work assignment is done, to say, you know what, I really enjoyed working here. I'd love to be a regular employee here, and you know, maybe even say you wouldn't have to train me. I already know the job.
Yep.
I know the workers. I know some of the customers. So really, just communicate that's something that you're interested in.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm going to put you on the spot here with another question. Tell me, I kind of enjoy this. I've done employer panels before, and a question that I like to ask employers is like, what's the dumbest thing that you've had one of your workers do? And I think students kind of enjoy hearing those stories because it kind of makes you feel good, because then you can think, I wouldn't do that, you know. So do you have any funny stories about an employee that's just really goofed up?
I can't think of one offhand, to be
Okay,
honest.
yeah, I kind of put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I can't think of one offhand. I'm sure. I mean, it's.
Why don't you think back to your own history of what you've done? We've all done stupid things as employees.
I remember, and I don't even think we got caught doing this, but I worked with Corey. We worked at the same place, and we would.
You're not going to get me in trouble here, are you?
No, it was me. It was me and a guy I was working with. So we, you know, it was in a grocery store, had pretty tall ceilings, and we were the entire night while we stocked. We would save the boxes. And we'd lift them up and slide it under because we were going to see if we could touch the ceiling. But we didn't. We didn't quite make it. But
right. So there you go.
It's silly because it could have fallen over. I mean, I look back on it and be like, what were we thinking, you know?
Yeah.
If I saw one of my guys doing that, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Right. You could knock over and hurt somebody.
Yep.
Yeah. So
we came close, though. Pretty close. Yeah. Pretty close.
But you would not encourage students watching this to do that kind of horseplay.
No, horseplay is not good. So.
Okay, all right. So these last few questions that I have here are kind of geared towards the teachers and school staff that are watching. So, you know, uh, as teachers and school staff and just people affiliated with the work program, job coaches and everything, we're kind of like advocating for our students to employers. Um, what what and that can be a real intimidating thing, like for job development. So that's what we call it, where I have a student that I'm working with and I want to go try to convince an employer that this is a good student, they would be a good worker, will you hire them? That's intimidating for a lot of teachers. What is your experience with that? And as an employer, I think sometimes teachers think that doing that hurts a student's chances. So can you just kind of talk about like maybe your experience with that and how you see that?
I hired a kid one time that's exactly how it worked. We had his I believe it was a teacher, I'm not quite sure. His teacher came in and said, would you hire him? He'll need help with this and he'll need help with that. But she even worked with him for the first, I don't even remember how long, but she would come in the afternoons and work right alongside him. And that way we learned, and it was through school, so it was one of those programs that you mentioned earlier where really we didn't need to keep him if we didn't want to, when it was all said and done. But she worked alongside him, we worked alongside him, and he became a regular employee through that. So, I mean, I don't think, for the teachers and the job coaches, there shouldn't be any reason to be intimidated because we're looking for help. I mean, we're always hiring, we're always looking for help. So, and I would say that's how 75% of retail business is. I mean, the turnover in retail is just, because we have kids for 3 or 4 years, and especially where I work, there's no, we don't have college kids. We lose college kids,
Sure.
Once they hit college age, they're gone. So it's always, we're always turning over new employees. So
Right. So what you're saying then is that, I mean, would you in some ways kind of see it as like an advantage or a reason to hire a student? Like if a teacher says, you know what, we have a job coach available to kind of work through that training process to make, because it might take them a little bit longer to train and do that. Like instead of that being like I don't know if we want to get into this, or is that like, hey, good, because then that they're not really going to leave that student until they're ready.
Yeah, I would think so. And then for the teacher or job coach, it just makes it that much easier because if we trust you, if it worked out really well one time,
right,
you can tell it's going to work out the next time. Or even if it doesn't work out and you can tell, that the teacher was right there and working along, and they come back and say, hey, I've got another student, I think this might work out better. Or this, it's another good kid, and I think it'll work out. We're more than likely going to try it again.
Okay. Oh, and I looked to see if we have any questions, so I kind of missed what you said. But did you say that if it didn't work out with a particular student, that student would not burn that?
No,
bridge?
I don't know. If you can tell that the job coach tried, and what I mean, and like you can see it. You know
Sure.
what I mean? So just because it didn't work out once, I wouldn't be afraid to try it again. So
yeah, I think a lot of the teachers watching this probably wish that they lived where you're a manager. So
does that not happen very often?
Well, I don't know. It does. It's just there's a lot of uncertainty in job development, and you're always like. I think I've seen some teachers say, I can't go back there because this student messed it up,
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is it's not necessarily messed up, especially, I think.
And I would say if you did have a student that you felt messed it up, go in without that student and say, "Ooh, that didn't go very well."
Right.
But I would love the opportunity to try this again with the next student, or I've got another kid that I'm thinking about that I think will work out. But I thought he would work out too. But I think this kid really would.
But honesty.
Yeah, because there's a good percentage of the people that we think are going to work out that we hire that don't work. You know, it's just like, whoops, missed that one. You know, that didn't work out.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you mentioned that, because as someone that job developed for a lot of years, when somebody would not work out, it'd be like, well, look at all of your other employees that didn't work out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
so, that's a good point.
We have kids that we pick all the time that are a 3-week careers. You know, where
you train them.
Yeah, well, it started to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So again, we're about done here, but if you have a question, you can ask it live right now. You can put it in the comments. If you have a question here for Patrick, you're okay with answering any question about, interviews, applications, on-the-job stuff, whatever, job developing questions. And then if you're watching this later, though, again, you can ask your questions in the comments, and I'll make sure that we get the answers.
I was really hoping to see some hearts and thumbs up.
I know. I don't think we've seen any. Well,
I might have to get on.
Yeah. Pull it up on your phone. I don't think I have any other questions. Do you have anything that you would like to say to high school students that are, either considering getting their first jobs or have just started working? Do you have any comments?
No, I mean,
I
think we've covered a lot of it, but I just the most important thing is just when you walk into your job, just be a servant. You're trying to, you're just trying to be someone that will do anything they're asked to do and not have an attitude about it. Even if it's something you don't want, go clean the bathroom. I don't want to clean the bathroom, but just go clean the bathroom, get it done as quick as you can, and get back. I mean, it's
you're bringing things up that are in this lesson.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I mean, but guess what? If you clean the bathroom and you do a good job at it, we're not going to make you keep cleaning the bathroom. You just stepped up and you're on the net. And not to say we like the first job we make people do is clean the bath. That's not it.
Right.
But it's always trying to do what you're asked to do as good as you can do it. And there's going to be jobs you don't like to do. There's jobs that I don't like to do in my position, but I still try to do those as good as I can and as quick as I can, because if you do it quick and you do it well, you don't have to redo it and you're done with it. So you're on to the next thing. So I would say just try your hardest on everything you do. Be polite, be courteous.
Right.
I mean, that's just be a good person, and that's a good employee. So
good. Yeah. In lesson number 22, I say yes and never say that's not my job.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think it kind of sums it up.
Because it's your job if I tell you to do it.
All right. Well, Patrick, thanks for taking quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
15 minutes, I think we were sitting here talking about work. So thanks for sharing all that information with students and with teachers and everything. I really appreciate that. And hopefully we'll be doing more of these types of interviews with hiring managers in different different industries and stuff. I don't know if we'll get to it this year, but it's just something that you can expect more of next year with NextUp too. So thank you for watching, and now you're next up. That's what I say at the end.
Is it?
Now you're next up.
With like that?
I do point, yeah.
Yeah. It's not polite.
Do you want to say it?
No.
You want to take us out?
I won't point.
Oh.
It's not polite.
Yeah.
Now you're next up.
All right.